Congressman, you said something in an interview with our own Greta Van Susteren. You and I got into this on my radio show, and I am shocked, frankly disappointed, and these remarks sound like the conspiratorial, anti-Semitic remarks of people that we have heard from over the years. And what you said was, quote, talking about Israel and quote, Jewish people, they're controlling much of our foreign policy, they're influencing much of our domestic policy. What do you mean by that? Because that sounds to me like a bizarre conspiracy theory. Why would you say something like that when it's just, first of all, patently untrue?
Number one, I served in Congress for 17 years. I've seen members question bills and votes on how does Israel feel about this. I must have heard that every time there was a significant vote. Here's what I'm saying. I'm not an enemy of Israel. America supports Israel, and we should. They're a free nation. They're our friends amidst a cluster of dictators and monarchs. So certainly I support Israel. But Israel, through its lobby, has manifested so much power over the United States Congress that we're embroiled in wars that I don't believe we should be. Our kids are coming back in body bags. And in the long run, this Israeli lobby is going to hurt Israel. So as soon as you mention Israel, someone claims you're an anti-Semite. The truth of the matter is, I'm pro-American, Sean. And I don't like, hear me. Hear me. I don't like what's happening in America today.
All right, that's fair.
Our kids are coming back in body bags.
Wait a minute, but you're saying
we're bankrupt, completely broke.
But you're suggesting here that we're fighting wars on behalf of Israel. But you just mentioned the 9/11 attacks.
I think a lot of that has been influenced
Hear me
by
now,
Israel.
Congressman. We're not fighting the war. We didn't fight the war in Iraq. We're not fighting in Afghanistan for Israel. We're fighting because this country was attacked, because the 9/11 Commission report said there's a group of enemies against us that are fighting a war against us, and we're not at war with them. So we're fighting them because they killed 3,000 plus Americans. That's why we're fighting. It has nothing to do with Israel.
All right, let me respond to that. We're in a situation where the commission come out and they discuss the attack on America. There's no doubt about it. But our policies in the Mideast have been so one-sided and subjective. Without objectivity, we've created so many enemies, the only way they can strike back is we've imported the terrorists from those actions.
Wait a minute.
So if you question it, you're saying you're an anti-Semite.
That's not what you did. That's not what you said. You said they're controlling our foreign policy. They're controlling our domestic policy.
Yes, and I believe they are.
Hear me now.
I believe they control the Senate and the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
That's insane.
And they're controlling our foreign policy.
Congressman, that's conspiratorial nutjob stuff.
No,
listen,
it's nothing to do with conspiracy.
Are we supposed to be friends with Syria? Are we supposed to be friends with Iran? Were we supposed to be friends with Saddam Hussein? Hezbollah, Hamas?
Hold it, Sean.
Well, you said we're not.
Sean,
we're only friends with Israel.
Ratings. I know you need ratings, but just hold it.
I have ratings.
I'm not saying we should be friends over there with anybody. I'm saying we should be objective. We have developed serious enemies from a one-sided policy. And yes, I believe Israel, through their lobby, has manifested total power of the Congress of the United States.
Power.
And my concern is the taxpayers and the citizens of the United States should control their government, not a foreign entity.
To suggest, as you're doing here tonight, that they control our Congress, that, quote, they are influencing, the sole control of influencing of our domestic policy, is an absurdity. It sounds like you are a kook.
Sean, I'm not suggesting it. I'm telling it. Yes, I believe they manifest a great power over America. Let me also say, in the last 4 years, there are 2 separate incidents of AIPAC spying on America. We even conducted a search warrant on AIPAC headquarters. Now, I don't like what's going on here. All I'm telling you is, I'm concerned about America. You and I might disagree. I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm not against Israel. And if Israel's attacked, I'm the first one to want to support them. But what I'm saying to you is this power that's being manifest on our Congress is going to backfire, and it's going to end up in the long run hurting Israel, because the American people are getting about fed up with this government.
One last shot at this. Will you back down from, quote, they are controlling much, meaning the Israelis, they are controlling much of our foreign policy. Will you back off that statement?
No, I don't.
All right, then we disagree. Congressman, thanks for being with us.
Good to be on.
House gives trafficant the boot. Prison might be next for the former lawmaker. July 25th, 2002. CNN. The House of Representatives opened for business one member short Thursday following the extraordinary expulsion of James Trafficant, a self-proclaimed regular guy whose political career crumbled in a bribery and racketeering scandal. In a 420 to 1 vote Wednesday night, Trafficant, who was convicted of federal corruption charges in April, became only the second House member since the Civil War to be kicked out of Congress. The 9-term Ohio Democrat has said he is the victim of a vendetta by federal prosecutors. In an impassioned final speech, Trafficant declared, "I'll go to jail before I resign and admit to something I didn't do." The House Committee on Standards of Official Conduct recommended last week that he be kicked out of Congress. "This is the people's house, and we have to do our job," said Ethics Committee member Gene Green, Democrat, Texas. "If we can't remove a member of Congress who has been convicted of 10 felonies, including using his office for personal gain, we risk losing the faith and trust of the American people that we have." Government seeks at least 7 years in prison for Trafficant. July 12, 2002. Government prosecutors are asking a federal court to sentence U.S. Representative James A. Trafficant Jr. to at least 7 years in prison and arguing that the severity of his corruption demands that he serve even more time. Trafficant was convicted April 11 of 10 counts of bribery, tax evasion, and racketeering. He is scheduled to be sentenced in federal court July 30. The 9-term Youngstown Democrat was found guilty of requiring staff members to do personal chores for him and kick back a portion of their paychecks, and of accepting cash bribes and various favors from businessmen who were seeking his help in Washington. Trafficant sentenced to 8 years in prison. A federal judge Tuesday afternoon sentenced ousted former Representative James Trafficant, Democrat, Ohio, to 8 years in prison and fined him $150,000 following his conviction on 10 counts of bribery, racketeering, and tax evasion. Earlier in the proceedings, Wells rejected Trafficant's argument that he should not be sentenced to prison because he had already been punished by expulsion from the House. Trafficant, 61, argued that a prison sentence would represent double jeopardy, being punished twice for the same crime. But Wells sided with federal prosecutors who said that Trafficant's expulsion was not criminal punishment. The action was inherently political and not judicial in nature. Trafficant was denied bail in order to settle his affairs before reporting to prison. Wells, who said that Trafficant was a flight risk, was immediately turned over to the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Disgraced former Representative James Trafficant released from prison. 9-term Ohio Democrat released from jail after serving out a bribery conviction. September 2, 2009. Former Congressman James Trafficant of Ohio, remembered best for his outrageous wardrobe, unruly hairdos, and fiery speeches on the House floor, was released from prison today after serving a 7-year sentence for bribery and racketeering. The former congressman from Youngstown faces 3 years of probation, which will be regulated by the Northern District of Ohio, according to Cancino. Trafficant died on September 27, 2014, days after his tractor flipped over and landed on him as he was driving it into his barn, causing positional asphyxiation that rendered him unable to breathe.